All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my fight prediction for this weekend's fight taking place in the sport of boxing between Xander Zayas and Jaron Ennis. So this weekend taking place in the sport of boxing, Xander Zayas will be defending his WBA and WBO super welterweight titles against Jaron Ennis this weekend in the sport of boxing. Now, I do have a few storylines heading into this unified championship fight between the two respective fighters. Storyline number one is, can Jaron Ennis become a two-division world champion in his boxing career? In my opinion, I already view Jaron Ennis as a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport of boxing, former unified champion at the welterweight division, holding the WBA and the IBF titles with the Ring Magazine title. Remember, you only earn the Ring Magazine title in each respective division of boxing if you beat the best fighter available in that division. Jaron Ennis did that when he defeated Staniotis before he moved up to 154 in the second half of 2025. But again, former unified champion Jaron Ennis, in my opinion, based off of how much I love boxing, if you guys have been following the podcast, I've been covering it ever since we started. But Jaron Ennis has that type of talent to be a generational talent in this era of boxing. Like he's an old school fighter that wants to smoke. The problem is Jaron Ennis has never shared the ring with the A-, A+ caliber fighter, in my opinion, just yet. That's not really all his fault. But Jaron Ennis, to my point, has the skills, the talent, and the aura to take over the sport of boxing. Not saying he's going to be like the face of boxing like a Canelo or Gervonta Davis, but in terms of a pure entertainment standpoint, to draw in casuals and fight top-tier talent, what do the casuals all want to see when they tune in for a fight that they really don't know much about? They want to see a superstar get a knockout. Jaron Ennis, with the victory here, could possibly be on that type of level if he gets past Xander Zayas this weekend. The second storyline is, can Xander Zayas prove that he is the best fighter at 154 pounds at the super welterweight division? Now, Xander Zayas is a unified champion right now. Again, the WBA and the WBO unified champion. Now, the landscape of this division is truly changing, in my opinion, for the better in this sport. And I honestly think this 154-pound division is the best division in the sport of boxing currently. Because this division is stacked from top to bottom. You got Xander Zayas, you got Jaron Ennis, two great fighters that will fight each other this weekend, obviously. You got Errol Spence coming back into the mix. We don't know how much time Errol Spence really does have left. But a former unified champion at welterweight that reigned supreme over the division over the last couple of years. I'm going to add him into the big names. Jermell Charlo, another guy that hasn't fought in 3 years, but if he could get his act together, put the bottle down, this man is a tremendous talent in the ring. You also got Sebastian Fendora, who's the WBC super welterweight champion. You got Tim Tszyu, a crafty veteran fighter that's still trying to get the big wins in this division. You got Virgil Ortiz Jr., whenever he could get off the shelf from Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions, when he could get back in the ring. You got the IBF champion in this division, Josh Kelly. A victory for Xander Zayas over Jaron Ennis would clearly make him the best fighter at this super welterweight division and the new face of Puerto Rican boxing in the sport of boxing. I know Amanda Serrano's still around, kicking asses and taking names in women's boxing, but this will be the first male Puerto Rican king that I would claim since Miguel Cotto was in the boxing community and the boxing ring, if Xander Zayas can get past Jaron Ennis this weekend. But enough of the storylines. Let's get to the tail of the tape here, and then I'll start to break down the fight as I move the camera a little closer to me. Getting back on track, though. Jaron Ennis, let's start off with the challenger. Jaron Ennis, he's 35-0. Jaron Ennis is 35-0 in his boxing career. 31 victories come away of knockout. Stands at 5'10" with a reach of 74 inches. I'm looking at the champion, Xander Zayas. Xander Zayas is 23-0, 13 victories come away of knockout. Currently the reigning defending WBA and WBO super welterweight champion. Stands at 5'10" with an identical reach as well of 74 inches. So there's no playing field. No one will have the advantage or disadvantage in terms of the height and the reach heading into this monumental super welterweight unification fight. Game plans for these respective fighters to follow if they want to walk out of the Barclays Center in New York with those titles. Let's start off with the champion here, Xander Zayas. I think Xander Zayas has to fight in different lateral movements. Now, Xander Zayas, when I gave a small fight preview for you guys a few weeks ago on the podcast, Xander Zayas doesn't have the footwork advantage against Jaron Ennis, but he does display great footwork in the boxing ring. And I think it's going to be very important, very pivotal for him to fight in different lateral movements as this fight goes on. And I've seen him fight in different angles in the boxing ring. And the way how Xander Zayas fights, when he wants to fight in different lateral movements, he'll usually spin his opponents to a different angle, in an uncomfortable angle, when he's fighting in different angles, fighting a different lateral movements in the ring. And that can force his opponents to spin to a different uncomfortable direction, like I just said, and force them into a spot where they don't want to be. But that could benefit a fighter like Xander Zayas, and that could open up the door for him to do this possibly against Jaron Ennis if Jaron Ennis gets too cute in the ring, getting very comfortable and really congratulating himself mid-fight for his crafty work that he could display on Xander Zayas. He gets a little too cute. I think that could put Xander Zayas to get in position and land punches and flurries and have a good selection of his punches that he would like to reign supreme on Jaron Ennis as the fight goes on. Next, I think Xander Zayas has to lead with the double jab. Xander Zayas does have a pretty smooth jab, so the double jab has to get home. And as the double jab is getting home, he has to find a way to lead with the double jab. And that can find himself fighting in the inside and split the guard against Jaron Ennis. Because Jaron Ennis likes to fight in the high guard, sometimes the Philly shell defensively. And if that double jab is getting home and the high guard, Jaron Ennis miscalculates it or falls victim to the feints, that could open the door for Xander Zayas to freeze Jaron Ennis as this fight is going on. Come right behind it with feinting with the double jab with the fast right hand, followed up with the hook shot, just like his Puerto Rican mentor Miguel Cotto used to do in his prime days in the sport of boxing. And last but not least, Xander Zayas has to be smart here. He's got to fight in range. He cannot, in my opinion, he cannot afford to fight fire with fire and make this a phone booth fight for as long as the fight goes on with Jaron Ennis. That's just not smart, and that's not even his game. His game is fighting in range, and yeah, he can make it entertaining, fighting in the inside and make it a phone booth fight, but not for all 12 rounds. No, you better fight in the range and stick to the game plan because Jaron Ennis is coming to fight. So it would be a huge mistake for Xander Zayas to do this for 12 rounds, try to fight on the inside, try to entertain the crowd. No, you're coming to win and retain your titles. So again, that goes to my point earlier in the segment, fighting different lateral movements, constant head movement, and leading with the double jab, forcing Jaron Ennis to make mistakes that could open up the door for him to have some success in the inside. But you need to fight in range and make Jaron Ennis come to you as long as the fight goes on. Now, for the challenger, Jaron Ennis, game plan number one, Jaron Ennis has to cut the ring off. I think that's very important for Jaron Ennis to cut the ring off as the fight goes on, and you want to be the aggressor. Jaron Ennis normally is very comfortable in the ring when he's fighting, coming forward, walking his opponents down, making them box off the back foot. That's when Jaron Ennis is at his best, and I think he should do that against Xander Zayas. Force Xander Zayas to retreat a little bit, box off the back foot, and when Xander Zayas is boxing off the back foot, that can force him into a counter-punching exchange and a counter-punching battle, which Jaron Ennis, I do believe, has the potential to win, because Jaron Ennis, with his punch selection, counter-punching, is one of the best counter-punchers in terms of active fighters in the sport of boxing today. I mean, he can win the counter-punching battle, slipping in the uppercuts, the overhand right, the 1-2 combinations that he loves to display when he's sharing the ring with his opposing opponents as the fights go on. Next, I think Jaron Ennis has to lead with the right hand. Lead with the right hand. If you lead with the right hand, then you could use the jab as well. So you can lead with the right hand and lead with the jab and box, using both, I should say, and box using both of those, the right hand and the jab, to your advantage to do some feints and feint in Xander Zayas, force him to make mistakes, and then go to the body. And you don't want to headhunt all the time against Xander Zayas, because then you become very predictable. And Robert Garcia is one of the best trainers in the sport, and he will pick up on that with his strong boxing IQ. So I think he has to take advantage of Xander Zayas possibly falling victim to the feints, and then go into the body once Xander Zayas is overthinking and get busy in the inside. And that's where Jaron Ennis could honestly gain momentum as the fight goes on. Because if he gets busy in the inside, that's where he should start switching stances in the ring, because he is so talented. I'm telling you guys, this man has generational talent written all over him. He just has to prove it against the best of the best and look good. But the talent is there. Like we have seen Jaron Ennis switch stances very well in the ring, and he likes to do long stretches as a southpaw, protecting himself in the Philly shell defensively, and he can also take away Xander Zayas' best angles, as Xander Zayas, like I just said, will be fighting in different lateral movements, attempting to fight in different lateral movements, and that could force Jaron Ennis or Xander Zayas' hand and have no choice but to make it a phone booth fight with Jaron Ennis. So I think Jaron Ennis should attack the body, go in the inside, slip in those uppercuts, the 1-2 combinations, lead with the right hand, the overhand right, and find success walking down Xander Zayas. But we'll see if these game plans are effective for both fighters as they head into this championship fight. But there can only be one winner. With that being said, I'm going to go with Jaron Ennis to defeat Xander Zayas. You know what? I'm going to go with the knockout. Give me Jaron Ennis to defeat Xander Zayas by knockout to become the new unified WBA and WBO super welterweight champion in the sport of boxing this weekend. Now, I said knockout, but this will not be an easy knockout. This will be a fun, competitive fight for as long as the fight lasts for, between Jaron Ennis and Xander Zayas. And this is what boxing fans want. We want the best of the best fighting each other. And these are, in my opinion, the two best fighters right now, other than Sebastian Fendor, fighting each other in this division. And honestly, I'm going with Jaron Ennis due to the fact of having the better overall boxing skills, the power, the blazing hand speed, and the better overall footwork. And I told you guys a few weeks ago, the only advantage Xander Zayas has heading into this fight, in my personal opinion, is being a weight bully, having more fights under his belt at this division compared to Jaron Ennis, which Jaron Ennis used to be a weight bully at 147. Now he's fighting a bigger fighter at 154. But Xander Zayas will make Jaron Ennis frustrated at times in the ring. I think him fighting in range will frustrate Jaron Ennis in the beginning part of the fight, and that's going to force Jaron Ennis to pick it up as the second half of the fight goes on, because I think Xander Zayas has the potential to steal rounds in the early part of the fight. But again, I'm leaning towards Jaron Ennis because I think he will establish the jab, and Jaron Ennis will, once the jab is landing home, he's going to begin using feints and force Xander Zayas to fall victim of his traps, and that's where Jaron Ennis is going to open it up and win the counter-punching battle between the two respective fighters. And I think Jaron Ennis will not allow Xander Zayas to fight in different lateral movements. I think Xander Zayas does have good footwork, but compared to Jaron Ennis, he has a disadvantage there. So I think Jaron Ennis will cut the ring off, be the aggressor fighting, coming forward, force Xander Zayas to box off the back foot. And then I think Jaron Ennis is going to force Xander Zayas to fight in the inside, make it a phone booth fight, and it could get ugly for Xander Zayas as the fight goes on. But if it's a phone booth fight, for any part longer than 2 rounds, Xander Zayas could be in principal's office trouble. Jaron Ennis is going to break him down in the inside with the body shots, the uppercuts, the overhand right, the 1-2 combinations, the hooks, the relentless power to break Xander Zayas' spirit in the boxing ring. So it should be a fun fight. But guys, I'm going with Jaron Ennis to have a statement victory to become the new unified champion at this super welterweight division. That is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.